It was 20th century author and journalist Damon Runyon who said it best. He said, there are two kinds of people in this world. There are people who like delis and those you shouldn't associate with. I'm Seth Front, and I'll be your host for A Culinary History of Jews in America, based on the astrological signs of the delicatessen. I'm also the creator of the Jewish Zodiac, which is a deli food parody of the Chinese Zodiac. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering, where did I come up with this Meshuggah idea? I came up with this idea at a place where good things always happen to Jews. A Chinese restaurant. I was at a Chinese restaurant one day, looking at the Chinese Zodiac placemat, and I looked up, and I realized everyone in the restaurant was Jewish. It was not Christmas Day. And all of a sudden, the clouds parted, the angels sang, and I saw a burning wok in the distance. It was God, and he said two words to me. He said, Jewish Zodiac. And I thought, well, what would a Jewish Zodiac be? It wouldn't be Year of the Dragon or Year of the Ox. It would be Year of the Bagel and Year of the Lox. And Year of the Chopped Liver and Year of the Pickle. So I thought, well, I know how to personify a rat or a dragon, but how do you personify, for instance, a bagel? Well, if you're born in the Year of the Bagel, like I am, you're pliable and always bounce back, although you feel something's missing in your center. If this persists, get some therapy. Compatible with schmear and lox. So before I knew it, I took the 12 most popular deli foods and I created this Jewish Zodiac placemat. And then I hired a wonderful artist who grew up in Brooklyn, a stone's throw from Coney Island. And he made these 12 retro 50s icons of the 12 most iconic deli foods, which I'm going to use to tell the story of our culinary history here in America. So before you knew it, I had a little business. We sell some shirts, we sell the placemats, we sell the magnets, we're going to have them outside for you, and we also have them online at jewzo.com. So I hope you'll take a look on your way to get some Canner's Deli. But we're not here to talk about that, we're here to talk about our culinary history in America. It's really 4 stages. The first stage, the arrival of deli and immigrant culture's food. The second stage, adaptation, the rise of the New York deli. The third stage is assimilation, deli across America. And the fourth stage, which is really the stage we're in right now, is nostalgia for deli's authenticity. But before we get into those 4 stages, a little prehistory. 1654 is when the first Jews come to America. 23 in number. And they're not Ashkenazic Jews from Eastern Europe, they're Sephardic Jews from Recife, Spain. 23 in number. They take a boat up to New Amsterdam, which is what we call New York in that day. The second stage, from 1830 to 1880, about 400,000 Jews, mostly from Germany. They settle all across the eastern seaboard. They settle in the south, and a lot of them settle in Cincinnati, but some of them settle all the way in San Francisco. Men like Levi Strauss with Levi's jeans. But Cincinnati was the gateway to the West, and Cincinnati was our major city, both Jewishly and also food-wise Jewishly. Men like Rabbi Isaac Mayer Weiss, who founded the Reform Movement's Hebrew Union College, which is where my father graduated from. He was a rabbi. He graduated Hebrew Union College class of 1955. That's him in the first row, just left of center, which also describes his politics. But the Hebrew Union College is not famous for my father's graduating class. Rather, they are famous for their first graduating class in 1883, because at that class they had a banquet, and it was now infamously known as the Trefe banquet, or the Trefe banquet, where they served shellfish, and they mixed milk with meat. These were Reformed Jews from Eastern Europe who were saying, we're in this new country, we're going to do things our way in a new way. And the Orthodox rabbis who were there, they walked out. The only way it would have been more offensive is if they'd served a suckling pig. But the other interesting thing about this menu, and that's a menu, it's hard to read. It's in French, and the foods have wine at every course. This is a banquet that our Eastern European ancestors from the shtetl, they wouldn't even understand these foods. So that's the difference in the culture between the German Jews and the Russian Polish Jews that would come later. So Cincinnati, a food city for Jews. The Fleischmann brothers were there with Fleischmann's yeast. And also Manischewitz was there in 1888 before they moved to New Jersey. Rabbi Dov Manischewitz and his blushing bride Nesha, still clutching her handbag as if the Cossacks might be coming. And also, interestingly, Procter & Gamble is in Cincinnati. Now, there are about 15,000 to maybe 50,000 Jews. Procter & Gamble, not a Jewish company, but they're there and they see these Jews not buying their lard-based shortening. So they create vegetable shortening for the Jews. And they market it saying, this is the shortening the Hebrews have waited 4,000 years for. I'm not making that up. That's how they market it. But it's the first instance where an American company creates a product for the Jews, and in doing so, creates a product that is popular with everyone. Another example of this would be Heinz vegetarian beans. Originally it was pork and beans. The rabbis went to the Heinz company and said, please make some vegetarian beans, and it became a very, very popular product. So that's a little prehistory. Arrival, 1881. What happens in 1881 in Russia? Anyone? The Pogroms, right. It starts because Tsar Alexander II, he's a very liberal Tsar actually. He sees all these serfs who want some power, and he says, I'm going to create 2 houses of parliament, just like in Britain, because I want to give them a little bit of power, or else they're going to overthrow me and kill me. Well, that same day, he is assassinated by monarchists within his own government. But, tell me, we all know the answer to this. Who gets blamed for the assassination? The Jews, exactly. So, if you're Tevye, what do you have to look forward to living in Russia? Pogroms, crushing poverty, and conscription into the army. So the rabbi of the town says, you know what, we're leaving. As an entire village, we're getting up and leaving. And when the rabbi says something, the rabbi is like the mayor of the town. His authority is never to be questioned. Just like here at Orami with Rabbi Paul. So they get on boats, and they come to America. We come to America. And we land in the Lower East Side. In this period, 2.5 million Jews come through Ellis Island. Most of them end up the Lower East Side or in the boroughs of New York. It is the most densely populated area on earth in that day. And we work in tenements in the garment district. And our children maybe do some work sewing together zippers, some piecework. Or we work in, if you're a woman, maybe you'll work in a factory. But if you're Tevye, remember Tevye had a milk cart. He would probably have a push cart here in America. Now, what foods did we bring with us from Eastern Europe? Well, according to the Jewish Zodiac, the first food that we brought was the Knish, right? The Knish, 1929, 41, 53, 65, 7. Who's a Knish? Do we have any Knishes here? You're a Knish? I have a couple of Knishes. Flaky on the surface, you're actually a person of depth and substance. Consider medical or law school, but don't get too wrapped up in yourself. Compatible with pickle. So we were so poor in Eastern Europe, we knew how to make potatoes and do something with potatoes in 15 different ways. One of them was the Knish. And probably the most famous Knish maker ever was Yonah Schimmel. Who has been to Yonah Schimmel's Knish Bakery on Houston Street on the Lower East Side? His story is essentially the story of every immigrant, Jewish immigrant, who went into the food business. He had a push cart, he had a great recipe, he had a push cart. And in 1910, he opened up his first shop. Why 1910, we'll find out in a little bit. But Knishes became iconic, so popular in New York City that they became iconic to the city of New York. In fact, the Underground Gourmet, which is a newspaper in New York City, said, no politician has ever been elected to office within the city of New York without first going down the Lower East Side and having a photographer take a picture of him shoving a Knish into his hand. They are so famous that if you go to the Museum of the City of New York, you will see that painting, the Yonah Schimmel Knish Bakery. So Knishes were certainly a food that we brought with us from Eastern Europe.